Hi, everyone. Welcome to another special report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm the executive producer of the program, Jimmy Young, and this time around, we are going to talk with a legend from Canada. That's the best way I can describe Alison Myrden because she's been advocating for cannabis reform for 30 plus years in that country that was the first G7 country to legalize it. And we're coming up on the anniversary, October 17th. I think I explained to you why I know that date. But Alison Myrden, thank you so much for joining me here on this special report.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. And hi, everybody out there in YouTube land.
All right. So one of the things that I love hearing is when people say to me, and I've had hundreds of interviews, cannabis has saved my life, cannabis has changed my life. For you, Alison, it's become your life. And you've had to deal with it because you have MS. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for people like you who need this plant medicine to get through the day, correct?
Yes, Jimmy, I used to take 32 pills a day, 2,000 milligrams of morphine a day, and then doctor prescribed heroin and cocaine. And I did that for 18 years. And I finally said, I can't do this anymore. To the doctors, no more. And that's when I started consuming cannabis.
Yeah. And there, I know a lot of people that have very similar stories. It has been a great substitute for opioids. In fact, it's called it's not the gateway drug, it's the exit drug from opioids.
Yes,
And Dr. Uma, do you know Dr. Uma Dhanabalan by any chance? That's her book, by the way, The Exit
I'm
Drug.
not sure.
Or you should read. You could be a great person to talk to with her because you know a lot of people from the medical field in Canada now, don't you? Not just in Canada, but all over the world.
Yes.
Are you noticing a change?
You know what? I am actually more so, Jimmy, now. In the last number of years, as you said, I've been doing this for a long, long time. And ultimately, for the first few decades, I don't think we saw very much movement at all. And then surprisingly, after lobbying the government and Justin Trudeau here in Canada, we actually got him to legalize and regulate this plant finally once and for all for the country. But using a LEAP mandate, I don't know if I mentioned this, I spoke for LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, for 16 years. And I was one of two speakers in Canada, and we got global attention in the media and around the world to LEAP because it was so important to help people understand why every single substance needed to be legalized and regulated. So that's where I come from.
But I also noticed your background in law enforcement. You work with young people, and
Yes.
your points are very well taken. I 100% agree that people that have been in jail for possession crimes, nonviolent drug crimes, don't need punishment. They need rehabilitation. And I actually think in America, and I admit my naivete, I had no idea that our prison system was private enterprise, honest to God. Now, I've learned quite a bit, needless to say, over the last 6, 7, 8 years doing all these interviews with some of the biggest names in the industry, people that are fighting every day to get prisoners out of jail who have been incarcerated for possession, nonviolent crimes. It's Steve D'Angelo in the last Prisoner Project one.
With leaps, Jimmy, there used to be a statistic that we would always quote, and it was the fact that 4%, or in North America, America is 4% of the world's population, but yet they had 25% of the prisoners, and that was when I worked there in 2004 to 2016.
And we can bring up the race card if you'd like, because we both know both races use it the same, and yet our jails are filled with four times more black prisoners than white prisoners. And the guilt I have, okay, because I get that I was privileged because of my skin color growing up, okay? That being said, I just have tremendous compassion. Are you okay? I know.
I'm the dandelion.
Yeah, I know that you're struggling, and I appreciate you taking some time to get through this. You're obviously well versed on dealing with your pain, aren't you?
I've had this all my life, pretty much, Jimmy. I was diagnosed with MS back to the under the age of 10 years old. So this is all I know.
I
And
I
I've had this pain since I've been in my early 20s, 24 hours a day, I have a pain in my face and head that's known as the worst pain known to medicine, called trigeminal neuralgia, or nicknamed tic-galaroo, the suicide disease, quote unquote. Most
Oh,
people who get diagnosed with this, Jimmy, take their life within 2 years. I'm
it,
going on almost 40 and I'm not going anywhere.
good. That's good. And I'm not going to complain about my tinnitus, okay? Because that's just not fair. All right. Yes, I had a concussion in 2019 and I continue to have the ringing, but compared to what you go through, I don't, and there's no comparison. Everybody has their own journey in life. Everybody has their own challenges with their human body. And of course, everybody tries to be a law-abiding citizen. But
Yes.
when I grew up in the counterculture, it was actually a badge of honor if you broke the law by having a puff of cannabis because you felt like, hey, you know what? I enjoy this. I don't care that it's illegal. And
But
that
you
was
know what, though, Jimmy? Coming from the end of law enforcement, I've got law enforcement all through my family, including RCMP, Ontario Provincial Police, Toronto. I've got two cousins on the Toronto Drug Squad, which is less than 60 miles from where I live. So, I mean, they understand. But what I was going to say is when we literally started this fight, it wasn't because people like me necessarily wanted to see an end. We did. We wanted to see an end to the cannabis, people getting arrested, etc. But it was also really important that someone like I did, that I taught people along the way so that they understood, Jimmy. Because again, I've used every substance under the sun, all of it, doctor prescribed, and they're trying everything. I've had LSD, I've had cocaine, I've had heroin, I've had opium. There are things, Jimmy, that I just would rather try that are safer in that respect than a lot of the pharmaceuticals that I have to rely on all the time.
right.
So that's what made me turn to this and want to educate people.
Right, and I'm an educator in my soul, as you know, now that we've talked, and it's one of the reasons why what I do drives me, because I love to enlighten people, educate people about this. I don't like to call it a drug. To me, it's a plant medicine, and I always use the analogy of cough medicine, Robitussin with dextromethorphan. You get high from that product, that drug. Okay, I happen to have. I went through a bottle of it about 10 days ago because I had this horrible, horrible cough. That being said, you still now have to show your ID over 21 to get it out of drugstores like Walgreens and CVS and Rite Aid here in the United States. And yet our government opened up the Pandora's box with the Farm Bill of 2018 when they gave a legal definition based on THC percentage in the same plant, the cannabis sativa plant. They, of course, define it as hemp. That being said, human behavior being what it is, human behavior figured out a way to get high from hemp too, and it didn't take too long. And now you've got an right, and now you've got an under-regulated, really unchecked industry, $1 billion unchecked, right?
Jimmy, it really is.
And now on the other side, you've got an overregulated legal cannabis industry where companies are going out of business every day because of the 280E tax market, because too many licenses and the supply and demand of the market, and nobody understands how to do the metrics to do canopy space versus the amount of people that are using it. I mean, to me, it's all about education. And the reason why I've learned so much is because I cared. I know that the lawmakers don't have the time. It's not a priority to them. Unless, of course, heaven forbid, they have a family member that gets cancer or MS or autism or any of the seizure opportunity, things that are out there that the plant will help and perhaps heal. It's always the last resort. And it drives me crazy. And of course,
you know what, Jimmy, we really are working hard to erase the stigma.
I know.
Here in Canada, especially because children, again, are some of the licensed patients who've been in the media here for decades, as I said, because we want to show that everybody consumes cannabis. So we're trying to find all of these voices to speak out on behalf of every single thing that cannabis can help with.
Right.
Anxiety to epileptic, seizures from, childhood.
Yep.
Things, Jimmy, are so important, as I said, that we hear every voice out there. People didn't even know. Honestly, when I first came out in 1994, I got my first license in Canada for cannabis. And I came out to the media around 98, 2000. And I remember even then in the media, they had no idea that cannabis was even medicine. And
Right.
I remember saying, well, I'll teach you. Yes, it is medicine. And this is why, because it gets me out of a wheelchair and walking, because it takes away my leg spasms, because again, it dulls my pain, because it helps my nausea from all the other pharmaceuticals I take. These are the things that are important, Jimmy, the older we get.
And isn't it interesting that you bring that up this week? Because as you know, the Trump social, whatever they're, Truth Social, Trump Social, whatever it is, I know of course that was what are they, Freudian slip. That being said, the video that was produced by the Commonwealth Project that basically told the story of the endocannabinoid system, and one of my favorite lines in that video that was released this past week was, for those that don't know, you've probably never heard of the endocannabinoid system. And I'm like, I've been talking about the endocannabinoid system for 8 years. Anybody who's used cannabis knows the entourage effect. They understand how it works. But explaining that to those that never heard of it before, I thought the video did a tremendous job, graphically symbolizing, okay, waving the flag for the president who passed the Farm Bill or got it passed under his first administration, and now wants to use it to help the senior citizens, my fellow senior citizens, right? And for healthcare. So again, finally, last resort, it's going to take, something's going to happen probably closer to elections, because after all, everything comes down to politics. It really upsets me that the plant medicine is being a political pawn in our society right now. Canada.
That's us too, Jimmy.
But at least you guys on October 17th, great day, by the way, at least you guys legalized it, all right, in 2018, which happened to coincide, by the way, with the first year of adult use being sold in Massachusetts, the first East Coast state where I live and where I am a native. So, and that was in about a month later. It was like, I'm pretty sure it was November 20th, 2018. I think that's the date. I'll never forget October 17th. You and I talked about it. Why? Very personal day. No, it's not my birthday, people. I was bar mitzvahed on that day. That's right. I'm a Jewish man. And you know what? Everybody that I talk to in cannabis is in my personal book of life. Okay, that's what I can tell you. Because this is the Jewish New Year, Lashana Tova and all that. This is what needs to happen, is education, acceptance, and really and truly understanding. Don't label it. Accept it. It's here now. Learn about it. Educate yourself about it. I spent hours on greenflower.com, Max Simon's company, when I first got my medical card in Massachusetts in 2013, before YouTube took down the educational platform in its entirety. They had 250,000 subscribers on YouTube, and YouTube just went, sorry, you're actually pushing a drug by educating the public. I'm like, please, when again, social media, these community guidelines, the government gave keys to the asylum to the social media companies so they could police themselves and hide behind the First Amendment. I certainly support the First Amendment, but you know what? It's time to educate the masses. Open up the doors for public service announcements, not about the abuse of the plant, but the use of the plant in a responsible, educated way. I can't wait to see that day. I can't wait to see that day. I hope I live so long.
Jimmy, we're getting there. Like I said, we're getting there, because there are a lot of us in Canada who have been really active. And again, I do interviews around the world on a regular basis. I did one just in Europe just last year for a Irish website, an Irish YouTube channel.
Was it Martin? Was this Martin's World?
No, actually, it was Stephen Garland, and he has an MS. He has MS, and he's got a little channel. But the point is, he's a pretty big voice out in Ireland,
That's
And I love, that's what I like doing. That's what I want to do. I want to actually connect with people around the world like yourself, Jimmy, so that we can get an entourage of people together,
ooh.
speaking about this and educating everybody.
That's right. You used that double meaning of entourage effect. That was well done. Okay, Allison. I love that. I love using words that have
I
double
drew
meaning.
that in for you.
That's all right, Allison. Where would you like to see happen as we move towards more acceptance and away from cannabis prohibition? You know, you've got a law enforcement background. You know, one of the biggest challenges is trying to explain to law enforcement that just because you have this plant medicine in your system does not mean you are driving impaired. And being you're under the influence, no doubt, because it's your medicine,
Yes.
but are you driving in an impaired state? And I can be honest. I try to be as honest and transparent. People say I share too much information. I could care less.
Yes.
My point is, yes, I've driven under the influence of cannabis. Okay. In fact,
I have studies on my website that say the same thing, though, Jimmy, because again, I'm trying to educate people. Like you said, we're not impaired when we're behind the wheel after consuming cannabis,
no, I
but
hyper
mixing
focus.
cannabis and alcohol can be an issue.
Oh, 100%.
That's again, we have to make sure we explain that to people.
Yep, 100%. And look, we're all going through this self-medication discovery, similar to what we went through. Me, going through it when the drinking age was 18 and I was 16, and I couldn't hold my beer. I used to get crap from my friends because I couldn't hold my beer. I know, Allison, I can see the pain on your face. Anytime you're ready to pack it in, as far as this interview
No
goes.
worries, my friend.
Okay.
I've done days of things like this.
All
I'm
right.
like this every day, all day.
But I'm sensitive to that. Okay, I really am.
Yeah,
That being
thank you.
said, if from that perspective, how can we solve the recognizability of impairment and still respect the fact that you have the right to take and have this plant in your system as a medicine? It is. I'm not sure we know the answer to this.
Again, our lawyers have actually been working quite a bit at that because, again, there are a lot of people in Canada who consume cannabis, as you would know, and therefore get pulled over for it. So,
Right.
again, we're just, again, trying to get the information out there. The blood test that they're doing right now only tests on the surface of your body, basically. It doesn't let you know what is actually going on inside,
Right.
so deep inside. So, we want to make sure that with the tests, et cetera, and the studies I've seen, again, people have proven that they're not impaired when they consume cannabis once they get behind the wheel.
Right.
So again, I'm confused too, but again, I honestly have seen more to the fact that people aren't a danger to society unless they add again something else like alcohol or maybe another drug or something like that, then that could impair you.
An assault rifle, for instance. Okay, let's face it.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't have to be under the influence. There's a built-in criminal offense to the
Yes.
name of the weapon.
Yes.
Assaults are illegal. Okay. Now
Yes.
we're giving them a tool to actually create assault. I mean, let's not go there because I know how powerful the gun lobby is. And by the way, I support the Second Amendment. I support pistol shooting. I support sport hunting and thinning the herd. I understand all of those things. It's people have to be educated and be more responsible. And that goes back to the mental health thing. And we were talking a little bit about psilocybin. And you and I talked. I have a bit of a, not a block, but my point is I don't want to give prohibitionists another tool to use against cannabis reform. Oh, first, you want me to legalize?
Psilocybin's being looked at very closely, and it's already being prescribed in Canada
Right,
for mental health issues.
right. And
So
guess what? It works.
yes, it does. And
I
again, I'm not somebody who has mental health issues, but I also know from somebody who's been dealing with and suffering from cluster migraines most of my life as well. I find that these things again are godsends to people like me who have nothing else.
That's right.
So if I find the right strain of psilocybin and consume enough, I have no pain at all for hours.
Amazing. Alison Myrden,
I've
you are.
never been pain free.
I am so thrilled that you reached out to me on an email. I checked you out, and
You
then we
better
talked
believe
today.
it.
That's right. And I said, I totally want to interview this woman. I normally don't do this, but I was so excited to talk to someone like yourself in Canada who can be open about it and is recognized around the world as an advocate. And I respect you for that. And I kind of came late to the party for advocacy, but not late to the party because it was a party, if you catch my
You
drift.
bet.
Okay. That being said, thank you so much for joining us on a special report of Cannabis Coast to Coast News one-on-one this week, and we will have more specials one-on-one on Thursdays on our Pro Cannabis Media and WPCMTV.com network. For Alison Myrden, I'm Jimmy Young. Thanks for watching.
Peace out.
I think I messed up. Did you know there's a place that covers all the cannabis news you need? Pro Cannabis Media is now WPCM TV, your go-to website for things cannabis. WPCM TV is the CNBC of weed, bringing you the latest news you need.
Amy Carter. This week, she reports from inside the State House in Lansing.
I'm Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters with this week's Michigan Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
And talk shows about all things cannabis.
Well, thank you, and thank you for y'all all you're doing to get the word out. Like, this show is so important.
It all started back in 2018 when Emmy award-winning talk show host Jimmy Young kicked it off with the In the Weeds podcast.
That it's not just any generic paper towel. You do have a brand that you use, right?
Yeah, we live or die by the bounty. I mean,
The quicker picker-upper. I love that.
His mission? Building an army of multimedia journalists and podcast hosts who are documenting the fight to end cannabis prohibition in this country and around the world. Fast forward to today, and we've got the nation's only weekly cannabis coast-to-coast news program with Elena Pinto.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast News, WPCM TV's weekly production of the fight to end cannabis prohibition in this country and around the world. I'm Elena Pinto.
Delivering the nation's only TV news-style program. Since June 2021, WPCM TV has racked up over 1.3 million views with 17 million impressions and picked up over 16,000 subscribers on YouTube alone. For more information, contact the team at WPCMTV.com.